All right, everybody. It's Ted here, and we got Dolittle on tap today for our third episode of the Plotcast. So, uh, this movie has caught somewhat of a bit of flack, but I had a good time with it, and I hope I can transmit the good feelings I had watching the movie to this plot summary we're about to jump into right now. So let's do that. So if you've heard of the previous Doctor Dolittle movies that have been made, you probably know that Doctor Dolittle is like generally a individual who can communicate with animals or talk to animals and is good with animals. And our Dr. Dolittle, Robert Downey Jr., is much the same, but he lives in like a fantastical version of England, I guess. And the movie starts out with the little storybook style cartoon to introduce us to Dr. Dolittle's past, and it goes on, and he was friends with the Queen of England and helped her with a bunch of stuff and helped her animals and advised her, and he had the wife whom he loved, and she was an adventurer while he was more of an animal studying person, but his wife was everything to him, and eventually she went on a expedition that she did not come back from, and since then Dr. Dolittle has been sad and shut himself away in the large animal like safety place that the queen gave to him, and that's where we're at now. So out of the storybook prologue, we find ourselves with a young lad with his older brother and his father, and they're going hunting. He looks a little bit nervous about it though, but nonetheless they're going hunting, and they see some birds, and they get the birds to go up in the sky, and the dad says, "Go on, boy, shoot the birds," and he does not want to shoot the birds, and instead flinches and fires the weapon and hits a squirrel. And he's devastated by this. The brother and the dad don't really care, but he goes over to the squirrel and says, "Oh no, whatever can I do about this squirrel?" And the squirrel's all dying and bloody, but he picks up the squirrel, and out of the corner of his eye, he's in the forest, he sees a like toucan bird resting on a branch, and it kind of gestures to him to follow it, and for some reason he chooses to pick up the squirrel and follow the bird, and he follows the bird to this gate, and it's the gate of none other than the mysterious Dr. Dolittle. But the bird helps him find a way. The main gate doesn't open, but he finds a hole in the gate, and he gets through. And so now he's in this weird open enclosure space, and you can see within it there's like a bunch of different types of wildlife. We got like giraffes and birds, smaller mammals and the like, and we got some like hippos, I think. And so he's walking through all this, admiring it, and he sees a building off in the distance in the middle of this huge gated enclosure. And he starts heading towards that, but while he's doing so, he follows the bird, but he investigates something and falls into a trap that like grabs him up into the sky, like the classic net trap that you see. And whilst in this trap, Dr. Dolittle is inside, hearing from his animal friends that there is a human trespasser, and he's talking to all his animals. He's talking to John Cena, polar bear. He's talking to Tom Holland, dog, and all the rest of them. and he's very nervous about this human. But flashback to our other little dude. He is in the trap still, and a young girl is somehow also gotten into Doolittle's enclosure, and she asks what he's doing, and they try and like introduce each other. And so it turns out the boy's name is Tommy Stubbins, and the girl's name is Lady Rose, and she is the daughter of the Queen of England, sent to meet Dolittle as well. And so eventually they are both let into Dolittle's little castle, and he's doesn't really want anything to do with him. The girl says, "Dolittle, I need you to save the queen." But Dolittle's crazy, and he's like, no queen for me. But it turns out there's an old deal. He's talking to the bird, and it turns out there's an old ancient deal that he would lose his house if the queen dies. So apparently he has to save the queen. So he agrees to save the queen. But before this, we get to see Dolittle operate and save the squirrel, who turns out to be voiced by none other than Daryl from The Office. And he is not... Once we get to hear him talk, because we can hear the animals' voices when it's Dolittle talking to him, we figure out he's very, very angry with Mr. Stubbins. From there, Dolittle has to head off to Buckingham Palace to check on the Queen, give her a little diagnostic test, see what might be ailing her. Because I guess somehow he's an animal doctor, but I guess apparently he's also good at medicine. The Mr. Little Stubbins wants to go too, but Dolittle's having none of it. But without Dolittle noticing, he slips into the back of Dolittle's carriage so he can be a little stowaway boy. And whilst this is happening, the ostrich, who is played by Kunal, the guy from Silicon Valley, he's arguing with Dolittle about whether or not he will accompany Dolittle, and Dolittle says, "You're coming with me," or she says, "You're coming with me." And it turns out Dolittle will be riding the ostrich, so he rides the angry ostrich with him alongside the carriage, which is holding all the animals, and they go all the way to Buckingham Palace. And from there, we see the Queen, who is in not the best state. She looks pretty bad, and the guys there are saying that she's gonna die soon. And the guys who are saying that are her side administrator hands, who we can see have an evil mustache, so we can tell right off the bat that this guy is a sketchy dude. While he's there, Dolittle, it turns out, knows this mustache guy, and they went to college together, and they were always rivals, I guess. But he carries ill will towards Dolittle. And while Dolittle is looking at the Queen, he sees that she has an octopus in a fish tank nearby. So he talks to the octopus, who says, there's been some sketchy stuff going on here. But she doesn't allude exactly to what, because she says she might be hurt if this is the case. So we do figure out, though, somehow that the illness that she has is an illness that can only be cured by going and getting a sacred fruit from the island that none other than the very island that Dolittle's wife had disappeared and died on. Once again, Dolittle tries to ditch the kid, Stubbins, but he is unsuccessful in ditching the kid, because the bird, apparently, she's like, Yeah, there's something in the same with you and Dolittle. So you're one of us now, kid. She says, you're one of us now, kid. And she helps the kid escape by riding on Selena Gomez's giraffe. And they jump, like, off a bridge, which, it was pretty crazy. But they jump off a bridge onto Doolittle's boat as he's going. And Doolittle's like, why you do this to me? No, Dolittle have no kids. But the bird's like, Dolittle, can I have a word with you? And she starts giving him a haircut with her beak, and saying, this kid's a good kid. You just gotta give him a chance. And then Doolittle's like, all right. And he just starts kicking over stuff and making the kid, pick it up, and he's like, all right, whatever. And he storms off, and the kid gets to stay on the boat. And he's like, I'm gonna start learning how to talk to animals. And he tries to start talking to animals. So then it cuts to the bad guys again, and they're talking about how, we got to never make sure that Dolittle returns. And the big bad guy sends mustache bad guy on a boat, and he's like, go check on him and make sure he doesn't come back. And the whole time, Dolittle has apparently left a little stick bug behind, and that bug hears everything. So he'll be in the know about that. And we flash back to Dolittle, and we see a nice little montage of the kid doing a bunch of stuff on the ship. And Dolittle is boxing with the bear, who is played by the guy who played Freddie Mercury in the Queen movie. And the kid's like, I'm starting to understand the animals. And Dr. Dolittle, who's finally warming up to him, he's like, oh, good job. And it's funny because sometimes when we see Dr. Dolittle talk to them, it's like he's talking to them like in English. But sometimes, like, when he's talking to the monkey, he's like, oh. And he's like, oh, sometimes I'm talking to the bees, and they're dancing like, bees. And it's some weird stuff. But they start bonding, and it's nice, So, from there, the bad guy finally catches up, and then we have a nice, like, sea battle where the bad guys are, like, shooting cannons at them, and everything goes okay, though, because the kid saves the day. And this is the part where, like, Robert Downey Jr. says, it's okay to be scared. And the ape messes up something, and the kid saves the day, and they all make it off okay, and the bad guy does not stop them. But as we're leaving, apparently the bad guy said that Dolittle used to talk about lots of weird different animals, and among them were dragons. And then it cuts to the squirrel, who's now doing a kind of squirrel captain's log. The squirrel's name is Kevin. He said Kevin's log, and he's like, Kevin is tagging along to make sure that Stubbins is killed. He wants to kill Stubbins. He doesn't like Stubbins, so he's like, I'm gonna make sure this kid gets what's coming to him. But so apparently, before we can even go to the island, Dr. Dolittle reviews us that we need to get a journal that Lily, his wife, had while she was on her expedition, and that will give us all the information we need to know about this mystical fruit and the island on which it is bestowed. And it turns out that this journal is at the kind of the old island place that Lily and Dolittle hung out with when they were young. It's like a den of criminals, kind of like a Mos Eisley Cantina kind of place, but it's where they used to hang out. So they have to go there. But the catch is that the king who lives there hates Dolittle and is the one who actually has the journal. But nonetheless, we we go to this island and they're trying to break into the thing, and there's this weird moment where a dragonfly's helping him out, and he's talking to these ants who make a joke about like the scorpion was dating one of the ants and is no longer dating the dragonfly because he's dating a scorpion now. But nonetheless, he helps them break in, and the kid has to do these moves to get in, and then one of the Dr. Doolittle's like, "Hey, slick moves, kid." And then one of them makes a Bad Boys joke, which is funny because it's the same day that Bad Boys for Life comes out, which I'll also be seeing. And they're all breaking in, and it turns out that the king that they're breaking in to steal the thing from was none other than the actual father of Lily, Doolittle's lover. So there's like that added bit of tension. And so King Dad catches Doolittle, Stubbins, and throws him in the slammer. And he's like, "Barry, we'll have fun with you." And we're like, "Oh, who's Barry?" That's an intimidating name, obviously. And it turns out Barry was this like tiger that Dr. Doolittle had worked on and was helping like do therapy with before Lily died. And then Lily died, and Dr. Doolittle went into hiding, and Barry was left with no one. So Barry wants revenge now, and we can see that because he didn't have the Dr. Doolittle therapy, he's damaged goods, as would be what it would say if it was a tattoo on Jared Leto Joker. But luckily, just in time, the ape comes in and bombs the building with the polar bear. And he's like, "It's okay to be scared." And he comes in and they fight the tiger, and the kid's able to steal the journal. So everything works out well. But as they're leaving, they get surrounded. But unfortunately, the people they're being surrounded by this time is not the king's guards, but the other bad guy. And he ends up blowing up Doolittle's ship. And everybody's all sad, and Doolittle's like, "Well, alright, it's time to give up." And Stubbins comes over and he's like, "Oh no, you can't give up, Dolittle, no." And it turns out that the king is just behind the corner. And he comes around and he says, Well, Dolittle, what do we have here?" But he just had heard how much Dolittle loved his daughter, and he says, "I hate you, Dolittle, but you loved my daughter, and I gotta respect that." So he just says, "You know what? You guys can have one of my boats, and we can be friends for now at least. Just go get that. Go find that jewel or whatever. Or not the jewel, the fruit." And then somebody makes a "My Name Jeff" joke, which is pretty cool. And so they don't have the journal anymore because the other mustache bad guy, when he was blowing up the ship, sorry, I should have said this before. When he's blowing up the ship, he stole the journal. So they don't have the journal, so they don't even know how to get to the island. But luckily, Dolittle is friends with every animal, so he hits up the whales in the water, and he gets the whales to start doing secret whale tracking. And the whales bring them to the island where the bad guys have already gotten. And they go inside the island, and they get to this like weird cave thing. And they're in the middle of the cave, and then it turns out, once again, bad mustache guy pops out, and he's like, "Hello, Dolittle, you've fallen into our trap again, you fool." But if you'll remember, apparently Dolittle believed in dragons, and it turns out right where they are is none other than the lair of a dragon. And the dragon comes and scares all the guys away and ends up killing the bad guy. In the rage of killing all the bad guys, it looks like the dragon's also going to kill Dolittle and Stubbins. But Doolittle's like, whoa, 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 and the dragon is a woman dragon, and she says, "What is it?" And she lets them talk for a second. It turns out that the dragon hates everybody because the dragon once had a dragon husband, and that they were friends together, but that dragon husband died. And she's like, "You humans could never understand me." And Doolittle says, "I understand. My wife died." And she's like, "Oh." And then she said, "Something has been hurting my tummy for over so long." And Doolittle's like, "I know just the thing." And Doolittle says, "Flip over on your back." And she says, "No." And he says, "Just do it." And she flips over onto her side. And Doolittle goes over to her behind. And he starts pulling things out of her butthole. Various things, a lot of jewel or swords and armor. A lot of things. And then he finally gets to this one thing, and he pulls out a bagpipes, and then she does this huge fart, and Doolittle dies, and that's the end. No, I'm joking. That would be cool if it was, though. But dude, I'm not joking about the fart. She does a huge fart, and Doolittle just kind of sits there and like takes in the fart. And everybody's grossed out, and apparently it's a stinky fart. But you know, she feels good, and before she was a red and black dragon, and because she gets her constipation out, now she turns into a very mellow blue dragon, all because she got her farts out. So there's a moral of the story: is don't hold your farts in. There you go. But they get the fruit from the dragon's lair. The dragon's like, "Go get that fruit." They get the fruit, bring it back to the dying queen. But right when they get there, the other bad guys get there, and they're like, "Come on, guys, you think you're really going to get away with this? We're just going to let this queen die, you dims." But Doolittle comes in, does some crazy karate moves, jumps around. The monkeys and all the animals come in and punch everybody in the freaking face. I mean, the polar bear and a gorilla is obviously going to win in that fight, and when they do, so they just flex on everybody, fight the soldiers. A weird scene where they like squeeze the juice onto the dying queen's lips from like 2 feet above her face. Sketchy way to deal with precious juice, seeing as you just, but nonetheless, squeeze the juice into her face. She wakes up. She's like, "Oh, everything's great." And the bad guys are like, "Oh, we're not bad guys, queen. We weren't trying to kill you." But the octopus and the stick bug are like, "Yeah, right, you idiots. You guys are the bad guys." And the bad guys go like get thrown in the Tower of London. So hopefully, they're gonna get dead. And then everybody's happy, and that's pretty much it. Dr. Dolittle goes back to his Dolittle house and opens up the doors, kind of like in Willy Wonka. And everybody can go and be his friend now. And Stubbins, I guess, is studying under him as baby Dr. Dolittle. They changed the plaque outside Doolittle's house, and it says Dolittle and Apprentice. So very cute, happy ending, you know. Kevin the squirrel stops doing Kevin's log, and he decides, maybe these humans ain't half bad. And yeah, so that's the moral of the story. Don't shoot squirrels, don't fart, or don't fart. So thanks for tuning in. We got another banger, Bad Boys Full Life, coming up. I'm very excited about that. And we'll get my Dolittle review. The review little, if you will. And I know we've seen a lot of bad reviews on this movie, but get ready for it. Ted's got a hot take for you. Hint: I love